What's up, YouTube? It's Carolina Calvin coming back to you with another video. In this video, I want to talk about the NBA 2018 Finals. Now, there won't be any footage, so I won't be breaking down any footage because it seems as though every time I upload footage, it gets taken down. So, not going to try. I'm not protected like some of these other people. Some people are able to get away with it, whatever. But I want to talk about just, of course, as you know, Friday night, the Cavs, the Warriors completed the sweep. The Cavs lost by 23, 108 to 85. And honestly, looking at it, they had a chance in two of those games. You look at game one, everyone talk about the J.R. Smith incident, completely oblivious to the score, thinking that the game was tied. I'm thinking that they were up, And a lot of people put blame on him, although there are multiple things you can blame. Obviously he's going to take the brunt of it. But George Hill missing a free throw. No one calling a timeout when you see idiot J.R. Smith running out, with the ball. No one decided to call a timeout when you had time to call a timeout. Game was tied. Also, they laid down in overtime in game one. And, that's when you're at a point where, you got a guy like LeBron James. This is ninth finals. You expect him to be like, okay, yeah, we messed up at the end of regulation. All right, let's get it together in overtime. And you saw, they only scored about 4 points. They looked completely out of the game. And I'm just surprised for a guy who, with that kind of experience, supposed to be this, that great leader. You didn't see it in that game one. That was the game they had a chance. Usually, for a team that doesn't have home court, that's always the game you can steal. It's always the game you can steal just because, both teams are filling each other out. And it's the game where, obviously, adjustments are going to be made from that game. So coming into it, obviously you got scouting reports and everything like that. But it's the game where that's the chance for that the team that doesn't have home court to steal home court in that game. And the Cavs had their chance. They beat them down on the backboards, which I said was coming into it, talking with friends. I said that was a key for them to be able to have a chance. They had to beat them on the backboards. They have to slow the pace down because they cannot run with the Warriors. And you saw when the pace kicked up, the Warriors usually blew the game open. And you saw this in the majority of the games in the third, in the fourth, especially in the fourth quarter. You saw the game start to really pick up in the Warriors' favor. The pace started to pick up. Of course, with game two, Curry happened, 9 threes, NBA Finals record. He went complete video game mode, step back three, turnaround fadeaway three. There was really nothing the Cavs could do. They went into the fourth quarter with a double-digit deficit. There's really nothing they can do, and I kind of expected them to get blown out in game two, just because of how close game one was, and it just seems like it was still the after effects of the end of regulation in game one. Game three, Kevin Durant happened. Curry probably had one of the worst games of his career. He was 1 of 10 from three. He didn't hit a three until the end of the game. He ended up with 11 points. About 7 of those points came really at the last 2 or 3 minutes. A couple free throws. He had a layup, and of course that three. For the most part, he was terrible. Durant really carried him in that game, 43 points. And this will kind of segue over to the Cavs defense, which something that was a problem throughout the entire series. It was not necessarily, you expect a guy like Durant, you expect a guy like Curry to really be able to go off just because those guys are so difficult to stop. But it's the easy baskets. JaVale McGee, he had multiple games with double-figure points. Jordan Bell, you saw a lot of easy layups he got. Sean Livingston shot an incredible percentage while averaging close to 9 or 10 points. Those are the guys, just because throughout the entire season, the Warriors role players have struggled. Of course, injuries to the star players thrusted those guys into starting roles or getting more minutes, and you can see that it's definitely role players definitely weren't as good as they were in the past with this Warriors team. There's still some guys who can make plays. But definitely that was a lot of people, even coming into the Houston series, was the role players. How would they play? And the Cavs just gave up so many easy points. You already have to slow down guys like Clay. You already have to slow down Curry, Durant, which is very tall feet. But to give up so many easy baskets, it's ridiculous. The pick and roll defense from the Cavs was awful. And old habits die hard. Throughout the regular season, if you watch the Cavs, they were terrible on defense. They just had the luxury of not having to play the Warriors in a series, or only playing the Warriors twice. So most of the teams they were beaten down were bottom feeders or Eastern Conference teams who, let's just looking at the East that they went through. The Pacers don't have the talent. The Raptors are a disaster. They got #1 record, but it's all fool's gold. It's like those Hawks teams from a couple years. It's all fool's gold regular season. They win games in the regular season, beating the bottom feeders, sometimes getting lucky in a game or two against some of the top teams. You get into the playoffs where a team can game plan for you, it's over. It's over. Boston, team of the future, missing their 2 star players, struggled to score. I think that was the biggest issue with them. Of course, they're going to be better next year. They had a lot of young guys. But for the Cavs, like I said, throughout the regular season, defense. You're looking at this finals, guys who were bad. Mostly everyone. Kevin Love, there's a guy you never expect to be good defensively, yet he had the really difficult task of, they kind of adopted what most teams adopt. You saw Houston do it to a much better effect against the Warriors just because of the way that Houston teams built. The Houston teams, versatile defenders, and they can score a lot of points. So they can run with the Warriors. They can play at that pace just because they can score. They got a superstar, 2 superstars in James Harden and Chris Paul. And, they're probably a Chris Paul injury away from being in the finals. But, you look at it, well, you say James Harden, he was the guy that was the defensive, what's the word? He was probably the worst defender that they had just because he gives no effort. But he had so many guys to make up for it. The other guys around him were good defenders that usually played. PJ Tucker, Trevor Ariza, Eric Gordon, Clint Capella was amazing. He has better defenders around him, guys who can switch on. That's why Durant struggled in that series, because they had guys who could switch on him, guys who gave effort. But then with the Cavs, LeBron doesn't give. He gives just as much effort as James Harden. You'll see a block every now and then, but he gives just as much effort as James Harden. Kevin Love's not a good defender. J.R. Smith's not a good defender, despite what people say. He gets lost. And what do you expect from a guy who doesn't even know the score at the end of a crucial point in a game? Just saying. But the Cavs just don't have the personnel defensively. Jeff Green, I like Jeff Green. Like I said, J.R. Smith played way too many minutes. Rodney Hood didn't play enough minutes, especially in the first 2 games. The guy showed that he can play. Probably saved himself in terms of money. He's probably gonna make more money now because of the way he played in games, and specifically in Game 3. So it's gonna help him out in the offseason. He is a restricted free agent. I mentioned Kyle Korver. They don't have. Jordan Clarkson completely fell out of the lineup. He just couldn't get in rhythm. So he pretty much got the axe, and that's the personnel that they had. And let's just be real. A lot of these guys, LeBron won it. Kevin Love, he got them to trade for him. J.R. Smith, he got him paid. J.R. Smith's gonna make $14.7 million. Tristan Thompson, he got him paid. The trade made at the deadline, that was a trade that I'm pretty sure LeBron complained enough about the squad he had before they made that trade. That was the best they could do at the time. Which at the time it looked to be a good trade. You get Rodney Hood, a guy who can score. You get Jordan Clarkson, a guy, streaky scorer, but could score. Larry Nance, young athletic guy. That's something they didn't have. And look, like all these guys played worse. And you ask, why did they play worse? Because they weren't put in a situation. They weren't, running the right stuff for them to succeed. Were they missing open shots? Yes. Jeff Green, he missed a lot of open shots. All these guys missed a lot of open shots. I felt as though Korver could never get in rhythm. He didn't get the minutes. Honestly, him and Rodney Hood should have cut into J.R. Smith, man, J.R. Smith wasn't doing anything. He make a couple of shots early in the games, especially in the later games, but so many errors, especially on defense. It was really bad. But a guy like Jeff Green. Jeff Green's not a spot up shooter. And, I hear people tell me he's a pro. Certain guys are strong, better in certain aspects. He's more of a slasher. He can post up, but a standstill 3-point shooter, and that you expect him to hit a high clip of those shots when he's never hit a high clip of those shots throughout his career is not gonna happen. Now, obviously, Tyronn Lue probably has no control. I'm sure Tyronn Lue has no control. It's all LeBron. LeBron has control. He runs the Archangel offense. He runs what he wants. Only time where he wasn't allowed to run what he wanted, that was in Miami. He even tried to get Spoelstra out. Pat Riley was having none of it. So we knew who was running that team. It was Pat Riley. Pat Riley was having none of it. He's an old school guy. Saw what happened with David Blatt. He got the axe. And LeBron got a guy in there that he wanted. A guy he can control. He can control what it was the same thing with, what's that other coach he had in his first stint? Mike Brown. It's the same thing. It's they run the Archangel offense. And you look throughout this series, there was a play in Game 3. Like I said, they had a chance in Game 3. There was a play in Game 3 where, Durant's killing them. He had 40 at the time. He's killing them. LeBron's on him. There's a pick and roll with I believe it was with Iguodala, and they had it was with Curry. Yeah, it was with Curry, and Rodney Hood's on Curry at the time. Curry sets one of the weakest screens. It wasn't even a screen. He kind of slipped the screen, and LeBron just casually switches and puts Rodney Hood, a guy, by the way, was his first game actually getting significant minutes. You put him on the guy who's been cooking your entire team the entire game in a crucial situation. And, of course, Durant, splash, 30-foot three, ices the game. LeBron you could see multiple cases. He didn't fight through screens. This switch everything doesn't work for the Cavs because they do not have the personnel. You saw that. You saw how much they abused Kevin Love. They don't have the personnel, so you have to fight through those screens. LeBron's the strongest guy on the court. And you're trying to tell me he can't fight through a Curry screen? No, I just find that hard to believe. And it was a crucial situation. Defense is so important. And the guy hasn't played defense since 2014. I know it kind of sounds like I'm ragging on LeBron. He gets a pass for it. And I think people are starting to realize his defense. It kind of trickles down into the other players. They already don't run anything to, for these guys' skill set to help these guys out, because running sets is not necessarily for the star player. It's for the role players to help them, ball movement. Where was LeBron in the post? More Kevin Love in the post. Less LeBron on the ISO on the top of the key. It works for Houston. People say Houston did it. It works for Houston. Houston has better shooters. They have better shooters. They can go out there and score a bunch of points. The Cavs cannot. It's just the way it is. And it worked in the Eastern Conference. That's the Eastern Conference. You're facing a Western Conference team, completely different. But like I said, old habits die hard. Kind of going back to LeBron's defense. Like I said, you see multiple cases where he stands around and he hunts for the rebounds. You saw Westbrook. Westbrook has made it an art form of hunting for the rebounds, and you see LeBron. He does it in the finals, man. He could get away with it against teams like Boston or, Indiana or Toronto. You can't get away with it with the Warriors when the margin of errors is so small, and your best chance of beating them is being able to slow them down. The Cavs just weren't, throughout the season, they just weren't a good defensive team. You saw it. Even despite that, they had a chance. But People bring up his numbers. Check my, he wears this check my stats T-shirt or whatever. The guy's a great player, but the hunting for numbers, especially the lack of defense, is probably the one thing I dislike the most about his game. And it's not ability, it's effort. He just doesn't seem to care. But let me know what you think down in the comment section. Where do you think LeBron will go? I don't know. If he does return to Cleveland, they're gonna have to completely retool the team. They have to get some better shooters. They want to keep LeBron there, and they want to be successful. But of course they did make it to the finals. But Boston's gonna be right there. If he does go somewhere else, Houston, Philly, Lakers, I think those are like the top teams that want him. So who knows how it goes? That's gonna be the most talked about thing in the offseason from fans, from the sports media, or whatever. But I think I'm done with this video. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.